All right. So, Anyima, thank you so much for joining me. As I mentioned to you just before the call, I'm really kind of curious about um, why you became a supervisor and what you were hoping for when you became a supervisor, and also what it's changed in your coaching and the work you do. But perhaps before we dive in, you can just tell us about who you are as a coach, where you're based, what you do. Just give us a bit of background.
Thanks, Nick, and thanks for having me. So my name is Anyima. I am Ghanaian, married to a Kenyan, living in Kenya, and I'm an executive coach. I'm a coach trainer. I'm also a what I call a design entrepreneur. So I design is my passion, clothing, interiors, graphics, and of course, I'm a mom of three young adults. And I work I came into coaching through my diploma in counseling and psychology. And I work and use all of those hats in supporting people. Yeah.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you. I just remembered when you said that you were a designer, we had that conversation about how supervision might support that. So perhaps we can come back to that a little bit later. But let's start with what. So you've done all that. You've done psychotherapy and coaching and training. What then led you to become a supervisor?
So as East Africa faculty for the AOEC, which I love, I've really loved. I think it was immediately I qualified as a coach. I was invited to, come onto the faculty because really my passion throughout my coaching diploma was, wow, everybody not only needs a coach, but for those who want to be coaches, what a gift. And I really wanted to be a part of that. And during that journey as faculty, I also discovered that coaches need support so that they support their clients better. And so that's when I thought to add even more gravitas and robustness to my facilitation, I really want to know what it means to be a supervisor and to add that to my toolbox or offerings to our cohorts who were becoming coaches. I had been the recipient of supervision and it had really transformed my coaching journey and experience. So I really wanted to offer that to others.
Yeah. Often when a coach becomes a supervisor, they have some vague idea what supervision is, but they don't fully know. When you actually started training as supervision, did anything change for you about your understanding of it, or what was that experience like?
Do you remember our conversation? I was really struggling at first to just get out of coaching into supervision. And so I think, the diploma really opened my eyes to not only the context of supervision, being supporting a coach in their work with clients, but also in the fact that there is some meandering and combining and getting comfortable with that through understanding the psychology in the two spaces that we really look at thoroughly within the diploma, the different aspects or models you can look at supervision through, whether it's positive psychology, existentialism, and all those. So it really just opened my eyes to the power of supervision in supporting coaches and their clients, but also for me as a coach, it broadened and deepened my ability and my skill.
I hear that a lot, that people often say that, to use a bit of a cliche, but they often say that supervision is rocket fuel to your coaching as well. And I remember quite early in your journey, I remember you coming onto a call saying, "That's it. I love supervision now. I don't want to go back to just coaching." And then we had a conversation around, well, what's appropriate for a given outcome? How has supervision sort of deepened your practice as a coach?
I think through supervision, it's given me permission to work with what is in the moment, and really see the client, almost do away with everything I know, models et al., but really have a meta vision of what's really going on. And because of my supervision, training, but also the supervision I received during the diploma and what I continue to receive from my supervisor, I think my coaching space has become more varied. I do bring a bit of learning into it now. I can introduce a model, introduce a framework to my clients to think through. And so it's almost become coaching plus. So we are coaching, but there's other aspects I'm able to bring into the space according to the needs of the client, including some training, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, I was going to ask you about that. So as well as bringing training into coaching, how has supervision affected your training for AOEC, for instance? Have you noticed that change as well?
Oh, yes. I think we often, in each module, we do have sort of facilitated group discussions with the cohort, really discussing their practice work. And in the past, I think I run it quite like a coaching session. So a lot more directive, a lot more input from me. And now I run it with the group supervision in mind. It is a pseudo supervision group. They're not qualified yet, so we don't call it supervision. But I, now being a qualified supervisor, I'm running it with the group supervision. I'm looking at the dynamics. I'm allowing them to interact and learn from each other in a much more fulfilling way, I think, for them as well. And I'm stepping in, with points of information, but really facilitating the group and their learning with a supervision in mind.
Yeah, that's really good to hear, because I've often said that training as a profession is probably the least supervised profession. If you think about it, you're at the front of the classroom being projected upon and having all this transference and counter transference from your side, and there's almost no supervision. So I feel like that's a space that's kind of prime for coaching supervisors to go into at some point, is to begin to expand into that world. Not sure if if you, as a trainer, whether you experience that sense of, you're often left feeling a bit like, ooh, what just happened? And there's nobody to kind of bounce it around with,
The good news for our faculty here in East Africa is we are 2 supervisors in there. So our post-module sort of wrap-ups and debriefs are very supervisory as well. And it's definitely a safe space. I mean, Sophie, my colleague, she was the first qualified trained supervisor in East Africa. And she encouraged me to actually, that dream I had, to go and do it. And so now we're 2, which is great.
Yeah. I remember you telling me that at the time, that you would be the second supervisor in East Africa, and I think the first in Kenya, because I think your colleague was in a different country from memory.
No, she's with me in Kenya.
Oh, okay.
Actual diploma certified supervisors.
Yeah. Do you see that changing at all, or is it still the same?
It's changing. I'm personally getting, calls from colleagues to find out about supervision, my supervision journey, intrigued almost that, you became a supervisor, and how come? And we're seeing more and more coaches actually take up supervision. In the past, there's been a focus on mentor coaching, especially because of getting credentialed with the ICF. That was a requirement. So now with even the ICF is really doing a lot more. There's supervision, cohorts in there. So I think the knowledge around the need for the benefits of supervision has really grown. And within the diploma that we do at the AOEC, we also offer post-graduation supervision. So I think a lot more people are seeing the benefits and experiencing supervision firsthand. Yeah,
that's great to hear. And I see that too. I see the ICF definitely taking supervision more seriously. Whether they're going to eventually create their own competency framework, who knows? Because at the moment, it's kind of like a bit of an adjunct of coaching as CCE. But hopefully one day, like team coaching, they'll recognize it as a standalone you know, a set of disciplines. The final question, I guess, would be interesting here is what, without obviously, you know, kind of naming names as such, I'm kind of curious, what's the nature of the supervision work you find yourself doing? What are some of the themes that you find coming up in your work?
Wow, a lot around contracting, I would say, because a lot of the things that come up are around either disgruntled clients sort of demanding from the eyes of the coach things that I can't do that, and you know, or discomfort around certain topics that are coming into this space. And it always goes back to, what did you contract for, you know, and or clients getting offended with, why are you bringing all this sort of objects? What are we doing with objects or images? Did you contract for it? And so really finding that a lot of the issues really take us back to robust contracting, robust checking in sort of midway. How are we doing? How is this space for you? How safe are you feeling? And also, I would say the other big thing is coaches understanding that the space is for both coach and client. So people are embarking on projects that they haven't really contracted for their own safety or aligned with their values. So they're finding out, I don't think I really want to do this work. How did you contract? What questions did you ask? So it's really amazing. And so the psychological, you know, safety and contracting that we learn about in supervision, alongside the contracting for the coaching journey. I mean, these are just huge in the supervision space. Yeah,
I so agree with you. That was what when I first became a supervisor, I started to notice, because in a sense, when you're an individual coach, you do your contracting your way. But when you supervise, you suddenly see multiple coaches' approaches to contracting. You realize that almost everything goes back to the contract or the ongoing contract, not just the start, but the rolling nature of it. Yeah, so true. Fantastic. Thank you, Anyima, for sharing all that. Can I just ask, if somebody wants to get in touch with you as a supervisor, how can they find out more about you?
Where can they find out more about me?
Yeah.
Yes, on LinkedIn. Really, mainly LinkedIn, actually. So if you have any tips for me as well, do share.
Do you have a website at all?
Not yet. That's one of my 2023 goals.
Okay, great.
Coaching and supervision website. I'm ready to do it now.
Perfect. Anyima, thank you so much indeed. That was lovely talking to you.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Nick.